Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. Today I'm going to be talking about, we're in a book. We were mentioned in one of our friend Ling's books she just published. It's fantastic. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the Market Garden recap. We just finally picked the rest of our crops out of the ground, got them into storage, and I'm sure we'll touch on a few other things. That's what's coming up on the SGF. Stay tuned. All right, and we are back with another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. So, I think I'm going to start with produce, man. I think we're going to start off talking about some produce numbers here. I'm kind of happy about it. So, our market garden. It is December 15th. I can officially say it is shut down for the season. This past weekend, we finished harvesting the rest of all the carrots we had growing. Those of you who do garden and are successful with your root crops, you know that carrots can deal with a good amount of different weathers. Since they're a root crop and they're a super, giving a comparison, sometimes turnips will start to protrude from the soil as they start to get big, so you have some of the root pretty exposed. Carrots don't really seem to do that. They just go down. They do get a little wider, obviously fatter, but they don't really do that. They don't have that issue. So the ground does a great job at protecting them. Even if the ground freezes, it's not going to freeze solid. It's certainly not going to freeze the whole 6 to 8 inches of whatever the carrot is. Some of our carrots were over, I don't want to say over a foot, but a foot. Over 10. They're over 10. I don't know what to tell you. Really nice looking stuff. And they are super sweet. So, we had a 60-foot row, untouched, and it yielded 60 pounds of carrots. I mean, I'm sure we could have had a better number, but I'm not upset. So that's 60 feet with at about 30 inches wide, with 4 rows of seeds in that space. And again, like if you heard on the previous show, this was one of those rows that had grown potatoes this year. Now these were the purple potatoes, and right, were the purple ones there? Yeah. The purple spuds were in this spot, and I remember that because I harvested them early. Last year we had some potato rot because of all the water, and it was actually mostly just the purple potatoes that seemed to rot. They're just not as resilient to the climate and our conditions as like the other varieties. Like we grow, I'm going to get on a potato tangent here, man. I love potatoes. Anyway, we grow a red, white, and blue spread of potatoes. The white one, basically the brown skinned potato, is a Kennebec. It's a northern variety, super good for New England growing. We've grown this same variety for several seasons and never really had a problem. Very little rot. The only thing that seems to plague them are not millipedes. Come on, what are they? Mealworms. Mealworms. Yeah. We got some mealworms in the soil. I wouldn't necessarily say that's a bad thing. I mean, we clearly don't treat our soil for insects. And they don't seem to really bother anything but the potatoes. And I gotta be honest, it's not that bad a damage. So, whatever. That seems to be the only thing that bothers the brown potatoes. The purple ones like to rot. The red are somewhere in between. I haven't really found a lot of mealworms in the blue ones. Maybe that's a time of year thing, and that definitely could be because we harvest them early in fear of rot. So they don't get super big, but we do get a pretty good haul. This year we harvested, I think it was a little over 800 pounds total between the 3 varieties of potatoes. I think we got like 50 left in the root cellar. Those are for us. Okay, they're off the menu. They're not on the menu because we need some. You know, what's the use in farming if you don't get to save some stuff for yourself? So those 50 pounds of spuds are staying with our remaining 27 quarts of tomato sauce. We grew a lot of Roma. I guess they weren't Roma. We had San Marzano and Amish paste variety tomatoes this year. They did amazing. But I never sold any. We just kept turning it into sauce, which actually we did sell some, but we turned a majority of them into sauce. And, you know, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to sell some to people, you know. We did get a lot of requests, but I was just thinking down the road, I'm like, I want tomato sauce in January that tastes like, you know, from the farm. And man, is it good. We've been eating maybe a jar a week at this point. And it's a lot cheaper if you break it down to do it yourself than to buy the stuff in the store at $8 a jar that's half sugar. I don't know why there's so much sugar in store-bought sauce. It's crazy. We don't put any in ours. Really, it's just salt. The only thing that goes into our sauce is salt. Early on in my sauce making this past fall, I was doing like the onions, the garlic, the basil, the oregano, putting it all in there. You know, sautéing the onions and garlic before I put them in. And it was delicious. Don't get me wrong. The sauce was fantastico. But you know, it was just a lot of work, and the time I had to make the sauce was at 4 in the morning most days, so I just didn't really want to go through the extra effort of cutting up, sauteing onions, blah, blah, blah. So I'd like start the sauce in one room, and then I would go and package produce or you know, start microgreens or seedlings or whatever in the other room adjacent to it, and just constantly check on it. You know, multitasking, that was pretty much how we got all that done. And it also helped that Cass would like pre-cut the tomatoes the night before, and then I'd come down in the morning, get them cooking, process them, jar them, boom, into the root cellar they go. But anyway, so I started off early doing, you know, the onions, the garlic, the accoutrement that you might say goes into a proper red sauce. But like I got lazy, so then most of them, like 20 quarts worth after that, were just straight tomato sauce with a little bit of salt, nothing added. Because you know, when you're cooking it, when you're getting it going on the stove, you're going to use it for something. You can add a lot of seasoning to it. Like, you don't really need to go through that effort. I mean, to each their own. If I know Cash, he's going to add a little bit of seasoning to it regardless. So it's best to just, in our case, leave it plain. Quite frankly, it's also good plain. All right, that's enough about sauce. We're here to talk about other stuff. So the carrots, yeah, 60 pounds out of 60 feet. I mean, you could break that down to a pound a square foot. Okay, whoa. Linear foot, not a square foot. That bed is 100, I mean, if you really want to get technical, it's like 60 feet by, let's say, 2.5 feet wide. Yeah, so what's 120 and half of that? So we had like 150 square feet, produced 60 pounds of carrots, but it also produced like 140 pounds of potatoes. So that one bed produced over 200 pounds of produce, you know, and that we ate and we sold. So our whole game with the market garden, and I learned this early on, is to maximize your square footage by having high rotation, but also amending the soil in between. And it does work. You do have to amend. You can see the results in the crops if you don't. Like, say, we took one of those beds and put radishes in, kind of a heavy feeder, only because we put so freaking many in that spot, in that square footage allotted, because they'll grow, they'll plump up, you know, touching each other, no problem, whereas like a carrot can be like, or actually, better example, a beet. A beet does not really want neighbors. No neighbors for the beet. They want to, you know, solitary growth. They'll get there on their own. They don't want to be touching any other beets. You can get away with it, you know. Don't get me wrong. Having two beets in the same spot isn't going to be the end of the world. They will grow. But you got one beet, it's going to grow a lot quicker. One beet per hole, or whatever you want to do. So we have different planting practices when it comes to all sorts of different stuff in the garden, and beets don't really, the seed is weird. Those of you out there who have worked with beet seed, it's bumpy. There's multiple seeds technically in that one cluster of seeds. I'm not going to get into the scientific name of what that type of seed is called. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I have to do a little bit of research. But basically, that one bumpy seed is multiple seeds within. So the cedar we use, which is nothing special, does not like the bumpiness of the beet seed. Those of you out there who have dabbled with cedars probably know this as well. Now, I know they make a nicer quality cedar, but we get by with what we have at the moment. I would like a nicer cedar. We'll see what goes on this year. I'm looking forward to a positive year. It's been a really good year this year. There's always setbacks. We should probably talk more about those, but we're going to stick to the market garden and this book stuff for the most part. So that one bed, over 200 pounds of produce in one season. We have 30 of those beds out there. Now, harvest weight is obviously going to be a variable depending on what you're growing, right? But, root crops have some weight. They're a dense, nutrient rich produce, all of them, from radishes, turnips, beets, carrots. You could consider an onion in the root crop family. It's more of a swollen root, like a kohlrabi actually is also like a swollen root crop. We grow that too, very small quantities, but also fennel. I guess I do classify fennel as a root crop. I do believe it to be, because it is in fact like a swollen root, technically. But anyway, I digress there. Root crops, where it's at, and we are dialing in our production. It's been a few seasons now with flop crops on some of these, like carrots and beets. They just need the finesse. And I'll be honest, because of all the different things we're doing, early on, I wasn't really able to focus on the finesse of the different growing practices by variety. I just treated them all the same, which I thought you could do. It's like, pop that seed in the ground, baby, put it through the cedar. Wrong-o! Everything has its own way to do it properly. If you're going to get yields like 60 pounds of carrots in a bed like that, you can't just go throwing the seed around. You got to use the right... we actually do use pelleted carrot seed, so it does go through the cedar a little bit more efficiently. I would recommend that. We have used just straight up seed to ground without the little pellet clay casing around each individual seed or whatever. And that works too, but you do a little bit more thinning. The thing that's super important with these root crops is if you're not going to be able to seed properly, like when you go and sow, you can't give them the proper spacing, you're going to have to do some thinning. And I swear, there's like a week to 10 days where you can look at a root crop, like beets, for example, and you can say, wow, if I don't thin those in the next 10 days, they're just not going to get to size on time. You know it. You know it after you grow so many of them. You could see it. You say, that's time to thin. This year, Cass and I did a little experiment that actually worked out really well. I planted a bunch of beet seed with our cedar, just to get it in the ground. I was like, wow, foresight is everything. Or hindsight at this point. But anyway, had I had enough foresight to plant the beets properly and not worry about the storm or whatever was coming, I knew there was something, I would have. But I didn't. I threw them in the cedar, and that sucks because the cedar doesn't like the beet seed, and it always puts it too close, blah, 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 blah. So I put it in a 60-foot bed. That 60-foot bed of seed ended up being 3 60-foot beds, or 2.5, we'll say. 2.5 60-foot beds of beets, because we went through, we thinned right on time. I'll be honest, it was a little bit late by a couple days, back to that 10-day thing. But we thinned them, and we took all the thinnings, because they were mature enough and pretty healthy, growing in fresh compost and stuff. Having a little bit of Two Dogs coffee during this podcast. It is one of our favorite blends, the Frank's blend. We drink it. We've been on their stuff for over a year and a half. This is not an actual scripted plug, but man, after having a sip, You got to try it. Two Dogs Coffee. It's on the menu. If you want some, let us know. Or reach out to them. Whatever. Reach out to them. So, anyway, back to the gardening. In 2025, we're going to be adding approximately 1,200 square feet to our existing market garden. There was a space we planted, 4 or 5 years ago as a blueberry patch, but it failed on us, and we just never really touched it after that. So this past fall, or summer, I don't remember what it was, in between there, ripped everything out, cleaned it all up, covered it with a tarp. It's all dead now and ready to be planted. We're thinking a large melon patch with Cass's famous and now award-winning watermelon. Boom. Look at that. Or pumpkins or something. We're not 100% sure, but it's a pretty good chunk of garden space. It's all going to be irrigated. So, things are going to grow well there. So, a lot of changes for 2025 in the garden. Definitely dialing in the root crop production because there's a huge lack, I think, in this area of like fresh carrots, fresh beets, fresh radish, fresh turnips. People want these things. They're very good. They're super nutrient dense, and you can do a lot of good things. The other night, I sauteed up some daikon radish. Not something I have really ever done. And people don't even think to cook radishes. You know how many times I'm like, oh, you ever roast a radish? People, it's like a light bulb went off. Like, of course. Stick that thing in the freaking oven if you don't know what to do with it, right? Like everything. Cook it in the oven and try it out. And I think I cut up like 2. The daikon radishes are huge. We had some that were 2 pounds. One radish, 2 pounds, massive. And not gross and hollow in the middle. Super moist, super delicious. And the nice thing about the radishes, they don't really, actually fresh root crops don't have a thick skin, so you really don't need to peel them. I never do. I think, and don't quote me, but I believe the thickness of the skin in most conventionally purchased grocery store root crops is because they're stored. I'm not 100% on that. Sorry, my phone was just ringing. California number, not sure who that is. Anyway, so yeah, I think the duration of keeping the root crops in storage develops that thick skin. I'm not sure. I should look into that actually. But we never have that problem. Even when we end up storing root crops, like I guess we don't really store them for more than a month at the most worst case scenario. Yeah, they just don't last that long around here. But anyway, you don't have to peel them. Anyway, I sauteed up some daikon radishes, and they were really good. Some of our onions, I just kept them as circles, the radishes as circles, because they were huge. And daikon radishes are known for their beauty. They look good, and they're a tasty garnish. So eat them. These were not that peppery. I will say, very mild, and radishes are packed with vitamin C, and they're such an old crop too. I don't know the lineage of the daikon radish or the history of the daikon radish. I'll add that to my things to figure out. But I do know that as far back as Roman times, they were cultivating radishes and eating them, Pretty neat stuff. Radish. Greens kind of taste like crap, the radish greens. I'm sorry. I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to be like, hey, no, I eat them. They're good, whatever. Yeah, our chickens love them, so do the pigs. Not something we're about. Same thing. Most of our root crops are sold topped, I call it. We take the greens right off. Because if we have to store them, I'm going to have to touch that root crop again, right? If I leave the greens on it, the greens are the biggest part that'll lead to decay. The quickest thing that leads to decay of the root is the molding and the decay of the greens. Makes sense, right? Take the greens right off, because you can't keep them fresh forever. Take the greens right off. Okay, and the root itself will stay really good if you keep it cool and a little moist for 6 to 8 weeks, honestly. I don't think we've kept anything that long, but that is what they say, okay? That is what is said. But like I said, all of our stuff leaves pretty quickly. Be nice to store it, just maybe to see. Maybe I'll keep a bag, see how long it lasts, like carrots or something. But yeah, so we're really dialing that in. The market garden did great. It did great this year. Most beds had it. Every bed had one. Every bed had one crop. 90% of the beds had two crops. Probably something like, I don't know, 8. Man, out of that 90% that had two, maybe like half had three. So we really tried to. That was so convoluted. Um, we really tried to maximize our growing ability with what we have. So 30 beds, say times two, that's 60 crops. That's quite a bit when one crop can produce 60 pounds. Now we retail a bag of radishes for $5. You know, full disclosure, that was a $300 harvest. Now that sounds like a lot of money. It is when you multiply it by like 10. You have 10 harvests like that in a season. That's $3,000 on carrots alone. Yes, please. But that's a lot of grow time. You know, carrot is not. Here's a good example. A lot of people don't know these breakdowns either because a lot of people aren't trying to make a living growing food. But for those of you who do it, you know what I'm talking about here. So the grow time, days to maturity for like a radish is like 18. Some variety, like a daikon radish, is 40 to 50. Big difference. But a red radish, most varieties, 18 to 23 days. Boom, you got produce. Now, if you think of that number, that's crazy. That you're literally saying you could do two crops in the same space in about a month, maybe a little over a month. Let's 40 days. 40 days, give or take. Maybe give. All right. 50 days. Take it or leave it. It gives you time to fertilize. In 50 days, if you could put in two crops of radish, that's pretty good. Here's the problem. Selling of the radishes. You're going to sell bulk radishes, it's going to be wholesale. Sorry. Most people are not buying anything more than a pound of radishes at a time. And even that'll last them a month. You know? So I remember, like, radishes have grown really good since the creation of the farm. Radishes have been a really good crop for us. So much so that Cass made me this awesome keychain that has a radish on it. Oh, we should probably market those. They're really cute. They're nice. Anyway, radishes always grew well for us. That's why we started branching out this year with daikon radishes and just kind of, experimenting with the crop because the conventional red one does great. We have changed up a few varieties of red ones that we grow. I'm sure customers haven't noticed, but, there's always different genetics we like to play around with. Hold on, need a little bit more too, dogs here. Hold on one second. Whew, that's good. It's definitely cold, but it's good. Good coffee. Anyway, the problem is selling all those radishes. So that 50 days, two crops, same space, radishes, double to triple it for carrots. Okay, because carrots need at least 65, 70 days to get to a good size. And that's like perfect growing conditions because they're a little bit pickier than radishes. Truthfully, they are growing down, which is much harder than growing out. Because if you think about it, the deeper the soil, the more compact it would be. That's why you got to grow them in loose soil. That's why the potato experiment worked great this year, putting our fall crop carrots in our main crop potato beds. It worked great. I would advise anybody try it out. You do have to really pay attention to your timing. You do. And you got to water. This fall was dry. I had to water a lot. But it paid off. Look, we just harvested 60 pounds of carrots out of the freaking ground. It's awesome. It's definitely the most carrots we've ever grown this season. This season is the most we've ever grown. So we're very happy about that. And we're kind of dialing it in by variety and planting methods and all that stuff. Same with all the root crops. Romaine, arugula, the leafy stuff. We got that down. We've had that down. I'm trying to perfect the head lettuce, which those of you who do get the head lettuce in the spring, I know you like it. Growing head lettuces to me is like, I don't know. I like all the different varieties they offer. Clearly, I don't grow them all, but I'll try a new variety every season and be like, oh, let's try that out. But I have some staples. One of them is, oh my goodness, I can't even believe Flashy Troutback. That's literally the name of the head lettuce, Flashy Troutback. It's like a lime green foliage, and it's got red spots all over it. Of course, it's romaine. We don't grow the iceberg. No iceberg here. All romaine. And it's really good. It's quite tasty. It's not like super bitter either. You know, sometimes romaine can be kind of bitter. That's all about where it's grown. I can tell you that greenhouse grown, if it's super hot in the summertime, no. It just doesn't taste good. The romaine gets kind of bitter. Most of the leafy stuff does. We do have a banging crop right now of voluntarily growing dill in the greenhouse. Came up by itself from some other plants we grew this year in there. And romaine, a lot of Flashy Troutback in the mix, because I made that blend of romaine mix. I put whatever we had left and put it in the ground. And now it's December 15th, so the market garden's closed and the greenhouse is starting to wake up. Last week, actually the past few weeks, we've been harvesting the arugula out of there. It's kind of spent, you know, and you don't really get a cut and cut again on greens in the wintertime, as well as you do, obviously, in season. So market gardeners out there know that, like, arugula, romaine, Tokyo Bacana, which is a type of leafy cabbage. It's a really tasty green. We've grown that. Red Russian kale. All these things, spinach even, has a regrow. Like, they will regrow. You will get multiple cuttings out of a bed if you manage it properly. And then at some point, you know, the plant flavor changes, the foliage flavor changes. Some of them try to bolt. Bolting is a term that means they try to reproduce by producing a flower. A lot of times, once they make a flower, it totally changes the flavor of the foliage. So that's out. You rip it out, you feed it to the pigs or chickens, you move on. Maybe put some radishes there. Who knows? Definitely some carrots. But anyway, so the greenhouse is now coming alive. We got the wood stove in there, keeping things alive. I got to do a little bit more buttoning up of some of the vents and such, but the greenhouse is operating. I wanted to put a solid masonry chimney on the bad boy this year, but I didn't get a chance. Definitely going to be next year, because I hate having to buy this pipe every year. It kills me. I didn't buy it this year. I only replaced one piece. Should I have replaced the whole thing? Maybe. But I didn't. So there we go. So far, it's working out. Fingers crossed. March is on the way. But anyway, yeah, so 60 pounds of carrots. Also, thank you, Gavin. He helped us pick all those this weekend, our farmhand Gavin. It's getting towards the end of December. We don't usually keep him on. Well, actually, last year we kept him on year-round, but this year we might have to cut him a few days, cut him a few weeks, because he only works 1 day a week. So cut him for a few weeks in January, because it slows down, you know. These next couple of weeks, he and I are going to be doing firewood, getting everything buttoned up, because, you know, January and February up here can be ugly weather-wise. I digress. So, 60 pounds of carrots, market garden's closed, greenhouse is awake, and this weekend, Gavin, I'm teaching him how to do selective, like thinning basically, so selective harvest of all sorts of stuff. So this weekend he did our sweet baby turnips, also known as the Hakurei, that's what it is, yeah. Hakurei turnip, or salad turnip, whatever. Very good, very sweet. They have like a buttery thickness, sweetness to them. They're very good. I like them. It's like a honey butter combo, but in a root crop. Does that make sense? Definitely not as sweet, but along the same vibe. Anyway, he picked 12 pounds of those. And so last time I had him do a selective harvest, ironically, was also on turnips, purple top turnips we grew for Thanksgiving. We're just running out of those now. He kind of picked everything, and what was left was like kind of sad, but not bad. We still got 2 pickings out of it and whatever. So I was a little apprehensive. I'm like, oh, okay, you know, this might not look great because he's still learning. But I went in to check after he went home, and everything went looked really good. He did a really good job. And the fact that he got 12 pounds out of the bed, I looked at it, it doesn't even look like he picked anything. Turnips are banging in there. They're loving this weather. Loving the greenhouse. And I just put a fan in there to really help push the warm air around. Really get a good circulation going. I got to go check on that fire soon, but hey, I digress. And what else is in there? Oh, spinach. I forgot to put it on the freaking menu this week. Can you believe that? Unfortunately, I can, because it happened. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to spend the rest of the show, which might not be long, or it might be. I'm not sure. We'll find out together. Talking about this awesome new book that our friend Ling has self-published. And she's a photographer. Her name is Ling Messer. And she's got her own photography company. And she set about, I should probably have her on to talk a little bit more about it, but she set about to make a book, right, with her photography. It's called Local Getaways, Windham County, Connecticut. A travel-friendly guide to 90 destinations and experiences in northeastern Connecticut. All right, so Ling's a good friend, and I would say, and she has been a customer a couple seasons now, and she's helped us on Chicken Day a few times, and she's just very positive, very happy-go-lucky. She even came to our farm-to-table dinner and did all the photography. I do think she got a couple of side gigs out of that, which is the whole point anyway, which is great. She has a real passion to also help other small businesses. You know, she is one, so it makes sense. Same here. We want to help other small businesses. We work with them. Anyway, she comes out with this book. I know she's been working on it for a while. She's been talking to us about it, and we're in it. She gave us a page 121. 121. That is Daigle Farms' little breakdown there, synopsis, and I'll read that in a second. What I'm going to do now is just read you the back of the book real quick, okay? So it says, Explore Northeast Connecticut, a book featuring 90 places and experiences, 400 plus photos. Discover the hidden gems in the towns of Windham County, Connecticut, tucked in the northeastern corner of the state, which is halfway between Boston and New York. Whether you're a proud resident of the area, such as us, or location scouting for a weekend escape, you'll want to find the best places to go. Featuring photos by Ling Messer, a photographer native to the area, this book will guide you in exploring places and experiences in this peaceful area of Connecticut. Friends, family, and clients visiting northeastern Connecticut often ask about where to go and what to do around here. Side note, I agree, and that's a real thing. I'm always wondering what to do around here, and I'm from here. As a photographer since 2013, Ling Messer decided to showcase these hidden gems with a collection of photographs taken in 2024 and prior. May you be inspired and discover some of life's best treasures right here in northeastern Connecticut. Great book. So you open it up. Here we go. We got a dedicated page. What do I want to find? So she's got a table of contents. This is great because it's like a field guide almost, like you would get somewhere. It's really cool. It's all broken down. So you've got browse and shop, stay and lounge, sip or munch, farm finds, that's where we are, that category, leisure. So those are the categories, and we got golf courses, farms, wineries, specialty food shops, all sorts of cool stuff in this area. Airbnb farms, Airbnb spots that you wouldn't necessarily know about. Very cool, and the photos are outstanding. And I'm not just saying that because we look good, okay? I'm saying that because it's a fact. Hold on, let me get our page. 121, remember. All right. Now, most of the photos are from, actually I think they're all from our farm-to-table dinner that she came to, and it just looks amazing. The barn looks great. The chickens, hey, beautiful. There's a photo of a chicken that was in a pasture pen, like a meat bird. And then kind of right next to it is a picture of the meal they had that night, which was chicken. So maybe it's morbid to some, but I think it's perfect. That's the best way to explain it right there. But anyway, let me read you the Daigle Farm blurb here. Let's see here. Hold on one second. And each one of these pages and blurbs has the business's address, their email, a little bit about them, like when they're open, and ways to contact them. So it's like a guide. It's a really good guide. I'm not trying to market it for her, but I think it's great. So if somebody hears this and they're like, hey, I want a copy, reach out to us. We could definitely hook you up. Or reach out to her. Just go to her website. Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. I had it on my phone. So it's just lingmesser.com. Check it out. But anyway, so here's the Daigle Farm blurb. Let me shut that off. Okay. Daigle Farm is a favorite spring, summer, and fall destination on weekends for many families looking for pesticide-free vegetables and meat. Daigle Farm also has a successful farm product delivery service, but for those who like to venture out to a farm for wholesome dinner ingredients, this is a prime spot. Tucked away off a country road, the long gravel driveway will lead you to the farm store. You've arrived directly to the place where food is grown, hence their slogan, in quote, simply growing food. You'll find a variety of seasonal vegetables, meats, chef-prepared meals, local crafts, and favorite products from other farms and businesses. At certain times of the year, kids find amusement in observing the chicks through the glass viewing window inside the farm shop. Experience rich conversations with farmers themselves, Dylan and Cassidy, as they walk with you along the garden beds. They'll show you the pigs lounging in the forest, scratch their ears, throw them a leafy tree branch, and they'll thank you for the snack. During the growing season, stay tuned for special events open to the community, like farm-to-table dinner events, vendor fairs, and movie nights with old-fashioned popcorn. Very good. She's referring to our farm-grown popcorn. Small plug. The stuff is great. Anyway, plug over. So, this book, really smart guide. Really smart thing to put together for people that, a lot of people are starting to care, like actually care where their food comes from. And I know that the movement of buying local gifts for people is huge. It's huge, as it should be, right? You want to get a gift for somebody, you want to get it from a local crafter. That's the best way to support the economy that matters. So something like this is great to give as a gift. So she's got 2 sizes. I'm calling this one the travel guide. I don't know exactly what, it's a soft cover. It looks like a travel guide. I'm calling it the travel guide. It is $40, worth every penny, because you're not only supporting Ling when you buy this, you're literally supporting all of the businesses in the Quiet Corner that are in this bad boy. Okay, no one's making royalties or anything, but you get what I'm saying. You buy the book, you're learning about everybody, and you're probably going to go see a good portion of them. You're looking for fresh bread, maybe you'll come see us, but, or Soleil and Son Bakery up in Woodstock, like, I could tell you these things, or you could just get this book. This book's going to tell you, especially if you're looking for gifts, if you're looking for wholesome foods, there's heirloom in here, there's local breweries, it's a pretty good idea. So, hats off to Ling. She's got the small, soft cover travel guide for $40, and then she's got a really nice big hard cover. I'm calling that one the coffee table. The coffee table staple. That's a big one. That one's $70. So check them out. I don't know if we'll have a link in the show notes, but we might. You could reach out to us, through www.simplygrowingfood.com or on our Facebook page, Daigle Farm, if you want to get a copy. Or again, just reach out to Ling. Great book. Nice little write-up about us. Nice. There's some good farms in here. There's farms I don't even know about in here. They're like all around us. And like farms I've heard about and never got to go see. Like I'm learning from it. And yeah, the photography is amazing. Oh, there's some distilleries in here. That's unique. Wow, this would be like your summer weekend guide. This book right here. You know, you want to keep the local economy moving. You get the Local Getaways book by Ling Messer. Awesome stuff. Anyway, guys, I think that's going to do it for this episode. 40 minutes of rambling is probably enough for all of you. I hope this was educational and you learned something. And if not, that's a shame. But if so, please share this with your friends. The show is growing. Thank you to everybody that's been listening. We finally got over 1,000 downloads. And I say finally like I've been pushing. I haven't been pushing. It's me. It's not you. You guys are doing your job and you're listening. And I'm sure some of you are sharing the show. I've heard from, you know, a friend of a friend of a friend. So it's great. It's great. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. That's going to do it for this episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. Bye-bye.